大家下午好。我今天要演讲一个比较复杂的技术话题，就是那个怎么解决那个区块链上的保护隐私的问题。这是一个比较真的是复杂的技术话题，所以我今天不讲中文，我要讲俄语。Поддерживать потенциально создать самых сложных технологических задач. И я сегодня буду рассказывать. 我要试试讲中文一点点。那我要先描述那个区块链的隐私的问题是什么问题？区块链的一个很重要的特点就是这是一个区块链很安全。那区块链为什么很安全？区块链的安全性就是因为区块链有很多节点研究每一个区块，研究每一个交易。对。但是 Did people hear me okay?
Louder.
Louder. No, it's actually very hard to speak when you hear yourself in the microphone. Okay, so having a blockchain needs to have a large number of nodes in order for a blockchain to be secure. And the Ethereum blockchain does have about 25,000 nodes all around the world. And this includes every user running a node, it includes miners running nodes, it includes exchanges running nodes, it includes nodes in the network that users in the network that broadcast transactions running nodes. So every time a transaction gets processed by on the Ethereum blockchain, there is a very large number of computers that are verifying this transaction. And on the one hand, this is very important for security. But on the other hand, this is also a very big problem from the point of view of privacy. So if you have 25,000 nodes verifying every single transaction, then that transaction can be seen by everyone. The transaction by itself does not have any privacy. And so if you have a public ledger where everything that happens on the public ledger can be seen by anyone, how do you preserve users' privacy? Now, this is a fairly hard problem, right? It's hard to see how it's even possible to get the benefit of security from having many nodes verifying all the transactions without the privacy problems that come with every node seeing the transactions. And so, the problem is, how do we combine these? Right? How do we get the security and the privacy at the same time? Now, there are several solutions that I am going to go through today. Some of them are fairly low-tech solutions, and some of them are fairly high-tech solutions. So, the first major solution that I'm going to talk about is channels. 那是通道。通道就是包括那个支付通道，就是比特币的那个 payment channels， 还有那个状态通道 state channels。所以现在有比较多的通道技术，还有那个 Ryan 那个闪电网络等等。So this is what a payment channel looks like, right? So in a payment channel network, in one payment channel, you would have two participants, and the way you open a channel is you think of it as one of the two participants sends some ether into a smart contract. So here Alice sent 0.1 ETH into a smart contract, and this smart contract represents the channel. Then, after that, payments that happen between Alice and Bob do not need to go on chain. Right? So payments that happen between Alice and Bob inside the channel are not actual transactions. They happen inside of these messages that I call tickets. Now, every ticket is still signed by Alice and signed by Bob, but only Alice and Bob ever need to verify or see any of the tickets that get signed inside of their channel. And so, you might imagine, Alice might want to make one small payment to Bob. Alice might want to make a payment that sends 0.0001 Ether to Bob. And Alice would sign a ticket, and the ticket says, Alice still has 0.0999 Ether, and Bob now has 0.0001 Ether. So then let's say Alice wants to send some more Ether. Let's say Alice wants to send another 0.0005. She signs another ticket, and the next ticket says Bob in total has 0.0006 Ether, Alice in total only has 0.0994 Ether. And Alice signs this ticket with a sequence number of 2. Now the sequence number of 2 means that the second ticket is more recent than the first ticket. And so if there is ever a dispute about which of these 2 tickets is the correct one, then the ticket with the higher sequence number, so the more recent ticket, is the one that takes precedence. Is the one that the smart contract will accept as the correct one. Now, inside of this channel, Alice could make a very large number of tickets, and let's say there is some state inside the channel at the end. Now, let's say Alice knows that she does not want to spend any more payments, or Bob wants to get paid. So Alice or Bob would then send another transaction, and this second transaction would start a settlement process. So Alice or Bob would submit one of the tickets, and then there would be some period of time. And during that period of time, the other party can also send a ticket. The smart contract will accept whatever ticket either participant sent that has the higher sequence number, and whatever ticket it received that has the highest sequence number, it will accept as the truth. And based on that ticket, it will send the money back to Alice and back to Bob. Now, you might notice that inside of this channel, between Alice and Bob, there may have been 100 payments, there may have been 1,000, there may have been 100,000. But the number of on-blockchain transactions that you only need is 3. 1 to open the channel, and 2 to close the channel. And if you want, you can optimize it further, only have 1 to close the channel. So, transactions inside the channel happen off-chain, are only visible to the 2 participants, and the only things that remain on-chain are deposit, withdrawal, and conflict resolution. So conflict resolution means if Alice and Bob do not agree on what the most recent ticket is, then the smart contract accepts the most recent ticket from both and chooses the one that has the higher sequence number. So the only time you need to use the chain is 3 cases. Case 1, when you enter the system. Case 2, when you leave the system. And case 3, if there is a dispute. So outside of these 3 cases, you can have transactions that have almost the same security as blockchain transactions, but that do not go on-chain. This was originally invented as a scalability technology. So the fact that you can have very many transactions inside the channel without those transactions going on-chain means that payment systems or any applications built on top of this can have much higher scalability. But it can also be a privacy technology, because every child ticket that does not go on-chain is a ticket that does not need to be seen by anyone except for Alice and Bob. So this is one example of a privacy solution. So here's another simple privacy solution. And this is something that has existed in the cryptocurrency world for at least 5 years. And this is Pixels. So what is a Pixel? So let's say you have some people that have coins. And these people each of these participants wants to send some coins that they have to another address that they also have, but they want to break the link between the coins in one address and the coins on the other address. So they want to move coins from an account that might already be associated with them to another account, where the first account and the second account cannot easily be tied to each other. And the simplest way to do this is with a centralized service. So each participant on the left sends one coin to the centralized service, and when they send this coin, they also tell the centralized service what their address is. Then, after the participants send their coin, the mixer will then send one coin to each of the addresses that they specified. So this is a very simple solution, and it preserves privacy because the link between one account and the other never goes on the blockchain. But in this kind of technology, in order to get, you do have to trust the central provider. You have to trust this guy for privacy and for security. So this is a privacy technology that works, but it's not very good. There is another more advanced, slightly more advanced system called CoinJoin. And the way that CoinJoin works is, instead of having a centralized server in the middle that everyone has to trust, instead the way it works is, it's a process that gets split into multiple steps. So the first step is, you have some number of participants all send in one coin. Then, after some time, the first step ends. The second step is, everyone has the ability to specify one output address that they want to get included. And they might not want to specify their own output address. And they might want to specify someone else's output address. But then the smart contract waits for some time. Then in the third stage, it only keeps going if all of the participants who joined in stage 1 have to agree. So in stage 3, every participant who joined in stage 1 has to say, yes, in stage 2, someone deposited an address that is the address that I want one coin sent to. If even one participant does not say this, then the process stops, everything is reverted. In step 4, if everything went well, then the smart contract outputs one coin to each of the addresses provided in step 2. So this is a somewhat more complicated solution, and it has some efficiency problems at home. But it is also a way to preserve privacy, at least for some applications, at least for tokens on a blockchain. And it works without really requiring advanced technology. Now, mixers have applications going beyond just currency. So one example is that anything in general, anything that you can use for privacy-preserving cryptocurrency can also be used for privacy-preserving coding. Anything can be used for privacy-preserving cryptocurrency can also be used for privacy-preserving solutions to symbol resistance. So if there's any mechanism that allows users to create accounts, but somehow prevents one user from creating too many accounts, then any of these mixing technologies can be used to take that kind of mechanism and add more privacy to it. So there are many use cases for this kind of technology. So these are low-tech solutions. Aside from this, we also have different kinds of high-tech solutions. Now, high-tech solutions tend to rely on more advanced cryptography, so they can rely on things like zero-knowledge proofs. They rely on new forms of cryptography that have only existed for maybe 10 years, maybe 20, maybe 30 years. But by using more advanced cryptography, these kinds of solutions do often have much better properties. So, start off with ring signatures. So, the idea with a ring signature is it's a cryptographic technology where, first, what you can do is you can make a signature where you can prove that you control one private key out of a set of accounts. So you can say, here are 5 accounts, and I am signing a message with the key that corresponds to one of those 5 accounts. It has to be one of those 5. It cannot be any of them. But no, from the signature by itself, you cannot tell which one of the 5. Now, there is a more advanced form of ring signature called a linkable ring signature. And a linkable ring signature says, you can specify a set of 5 accounts, and when you make the signature, then anyone can, from the signature, anyone can see that the message was signed by one of the 5 accounts, and nobody can tell which one of the 5. But if you make 2 signatures with the same account, then everyone can tell. So you can make a signature that proves that you are a member of some set, but it preserves uniqueness. So it allows you to, it only allows you to prove that you're a member of this set in order to take some action once. Now, what you might realize is that this is very good for building better cryptographic mixing technology. Everyone puts a coin in, joins the list, and to take a coin out, everyone has to provide a linkable ring signature that proves that they are one of the people who put the coin in. Now, if you do not put a coin in, then you cannot make a valid ring signature. If you put 1 coin in, then you can make 1 linkable ring signature, but you cannot do it twice. So this allows you to create a kind of more decentralized mixing system that preserves privacy and preserves security better than a lot of the kind of simpler technologies that exist so far. Last month, the Ethereum network underwent the Byzantium hard fork, and the Byzantium hard fork included a lot of different cryptography features. So it included support for elliptic curve cryptography, big number multiplication, and this actually makes it possible to write a smart contract that verifies a linkable ring signature inside, basically in Solidity, and run it on the Ethereum blockchain. And this is something that people have already done, it has already happened, and you can use this code right now if you want to. So this is still fairly new, and but theoretically it works. So here, this is just a fairly simple example of a ring signature mixer. It is running on the on one of the Ethereum test networks, and this has worked well for about a month. Now, there is also another, even more high-tech solution, which is zero knowledge proofs, being distributed. And this is probably the most technologically complex of all the privacy technologies, but it is also the most powerful. Right? So, what does what does a general purpose zero knowledge proof do? So we're not just zero knowledge proofs for specific use cases have existed for a very long time, and you can say a digital signature is a zero knowledge proof for a very specific use case. But here we're talking about general purpose zero knowledge proofs. So what a general purpose zero knowledge proof does is it allows you to prove that you have some number that satisfies some equation where the equation is public, but when you make a proof that you know a number that satisfies the equation, you do not reveal anything else about what the number is. So basically, it allows you to prove something about a piece of data, and you can prove things even about an encrypted piece of data or a hashed piece of data without revealing anything else about what the underlying data is. So what is the use case for this? Well, the use case is fairly obvious. Smile for the bunny. So basically, zero-knowledge proofs allow you to prove that a transaction is valid without revealing anything else about the transaction itself. The transaction itself could be encrypted. The account balances could be encrypted. The account balances of the transaction could be hashless. But, so you could have a blockchain where only encrypted and hashed data is actually stored on the public chain that everyone verifies. But because every transaction has a zero-knowledge proof, the 25,000 nodes in the network can just be verified that the zero-knowledge proof is correct. So they can verify that all of the transactions are correct, that all transactions are valid, that all transactions follow the rules, without needing to know anything more specific about the transaction. Now, this is clearly a very powerful and almost magical cryptographic technology, but for the last about 1 year and a month, there has been a blockchain, Zcash, that has already been running very successfully using this technology to preserve privacy. So this is technology that exists. This is technology that has already been tested for almost 1 year. Now, Zcash uses this technology to make a privacy-preserving cryptocurrency. But there are actually many other things that the technology can be used for. Right? So, like in Ethereum, we're all about, blockchains are not just about cryptocurrency. Blockchains are also about all of the other, 850, thousands of applications that you can make on top of blockchains, many of which have nothing to do with cryptocurrency. 就是以太坊不是一个数字货币，是一个通用的平台。So, 以太币是数字货币。So, the question is, how do we actually take this zero-knowledge proof technology and make it accessible to users in a general purpose way? So, in the Byzantium hard fork that we did last month, the cryptography that we introduced does make it possible to write a smart contract that verifies zero-knowledge proofs, or specifically CDS numbers. But you still have to have some kind of tool that makes it easy to use the technology. So this is the idea behind a system called Socrates. So the idea behind Socrates, and this was presented at DEFCON 3 in Mexico, is that you can have it is a programming language that allows you to write that you can use to write any kind of equation, and then the compiler can compile the equation into a verifier for zero-knowledge proof, and if you know a solution to the equation, there is another compiler that compiles the solution into a proof. So it provides all of the tools that you need in order to use zero-knowledge proofs for basically any use case, at least if the use case is reasonably simple. So this is something that can be used. There have been other applications that have already used zero-knowledge proofs for privacy-preserving currency. I saw one last month that was using zero-knowledge proofs on Ethereum to build a privacy-preserving reputation system. So kind of like credit scoring, but without without any privacy losses, without any kind of centralized data collection. But there are very many applications that theoretically could be done with something like this. Benefits of zero knowledge proofs, so first, general purpose, like Ethereum. And also the level of privacy and security that you get from zero knowledge proofs is very strong. So if you use some of the simpler low-tech solutions, then it actually can be quite hard to figure out exactly how much privacy you have, exactly how difficult is it to link one account to another account. But with zero knowledge proofs, you have fairly strong cryptographic mathematical guarantees that when you make a zero knowledge proof about some number, that nothing else about that number actually is being revealed. So you have a strong privacy guarantee, and you also have a strong security guarantee. Now, zero knowledge these kinds of general purpose zero knowledge proofs are not perfect. Right? So one of the major problems is this trusted setup mechanism. So for any new application, you basically need to perform this trusted setup ceremony, where a group of people have to set up a public key that gets used to make proofs. And if every single person in that group is colluding with each other, so if every single person in that group is untrustworthy, then it can be possible to create fake proofs. So this is one of the limitations of the technology. Another is that proof generation is inefficient. So in the current version of Zcash, signing a Zcash transaction takes about 40 seconds. Now, in the next version of Zcash that we are planning to release next year, it goes down from 40 seconds to 7 seconds. And it becomes just barely possible to sign one of these transactions on a mobile phone. So proof generation is going to improve, but there are still a lot there's still a lot of inefficiencies, a lot of overhead in the process of creating a proof. Now, verifying a proof is not too inefficient, maybe 10 to 15 milliseconds. And also, Zcash and ARCs are relatively untested technology. So Zcash has been running for 1 year, whereas hashes and digital signature algorithms have been around for 30 years. So it's compared to simpler cryptography, zero knowledge proofs are still relatively new. But we think they're very promising because they are very powerful. So if anyone so the tools to build applications using any of these technologies are fairly publicly available. So over here you have the code for the ring signature contract. At the top you have some articles by myself explaining in a lot of detail how zero knowledge proofs work. And you have an article at the bottom from myself talking about privacy on the blockchain. And in the article at the bottom, I talk about a lot of these solutions, though 1.5 years ago, these solutions were just ideas. Right? 1.5 years ago, the actual technology did not really exist. But now, the technology exists, and you can start working. So, if you are building a decentralized application on the blockchain, and you are putting your users' data on a public ledger that 25,000 nodes from around the world are reading every day, then I recommend that you have a privacy strategy. I recommend that you figure out, how are you actually going to protect your users' privacy? And think about these technologies and try to figure out which one or which ones make the most sense for your application. Thank you.